2 years ago, Cape Coral boasted more canals than Venice, a waterfront city where retirees and young families snapped up homes for as little as $210,000, and Gulf access properties promised a dream life at a premium. Fast forward to today, the Cape Coral housing market is the worst performing in the nation, with waterfront homes sitting unsellable, inventory up nearly 100%, and insurance costs that defy belief. What turned a paradise for boaters and investors into a financial disaster zone overnight? The answer reveals how America's canal city slid from boom to crisis in a way no one predicted. In 2019, Cape Coral's promise was simple: affordable waterfront living, open to almost anyone who could picture a boat at the back door. The city stretched across 4 quadrants, each with its own draw. The Southwest, prized for Gulf access, commanded the highest prices. The Northwest offered older canal homes, while the Northeast filled with new construction and empty lots. The Southeast, further inland, became the entry point for budget-minded buyers. Median home prices hovered between $210,000 and $235,000. On a canal, the price climbed to $280,000 or $350,000, depending on location and condition. For a Gulf access home, direct passage to open water, buyers paid a premium of 40 to 60% over similar inland properties. Even so, these homes cost less than a modest condo in Miami or Naples. Insurance rarely broke $2,400 a year. Days on market averaged just over a month. For retirees, families, and investors, the numbers penciled out. Half the residents were retirees, drawn by the climate and the idea of a boat ride to dinner. Families made up about 30%, filling the neighborhoods with school buses and bikes. The rest were investors, some local, some from out of state, betting on steady appreciation and the enduring appeal of Florida sun. The city's grid, cut by more than 400 miles of canals, set it apart from anywhere else in the state. Waterfront was not a luxury for the few, it was the city's backbone. A modest inland home could be had for $180,000 to $220,000. But step up to the water and the lifestyle changed. Canal homes came with private docks, seawalls, and the expectation that values would only rise. Agents pitched Cape Coral as the last affordable waterfront market in America. Buyers believed it. The math worked. A retiree could sell a suburban house up north, pay cash for a canal home, and still have money left for a pontoon boat. Insurance and taxes were manageable. Inventory turned over quickly. In 2019, the city's reputation was built on this foundation: the chance to live on the water, without the price tag or the risk of bigger coastal cities. The dream felt both attainable and secure. By early 2020, Cape Coral's quiet canal neighborhoods became a magnet for buyers with laptops and big city paychecks. As the pandemic sent millions home, remote workers from New York, Chicago, and the Midwest scoured real estate listings for somewhere warmer, cheaper, and open. Cape Coral's promise, waterfront living at half the price of Miami, with space for a boat and a home office, spread quickly on social media and in real estate ads. Prices responded with a velocity not seen in decades. The median home price, $235,000 at the start of 2020, shot past $425,000 by mid-2022. Gulf access homes, once a local luxury, surged from $350,000 to over $650,000. Vacant lots, the blank slates of the Northeast, multiplied in value. $40,000 became $180,000 in less than 2 years. The city's landscape filled with new construction as builders raced to pour slabs and frame canal front homes for buyers who often never set foot in Florida before closing. But it wasn't just families and retirees fueling the frenzy. Investors, both local and national, rushed in. By the end of 2021, 1 in 4 home purchases was made by someone who never intended to live there. Airbnb and VRBO listings exploded. Institutional buyers like Zillow and Opendoor snapped up hundreds of properties, betting that the wave of remote work and vacation demand would last. In some neighborhoods, nearly a third of homes changed hands in less than 18 months. Speculation bled into the dirt itself. Buyers flocked to land auctions and online listings, scooping up multiple lots at a time. The logic was simple: buy now, build later, or flip to the next eager investor. At the peak, lot prices eclipsed $120,000, even on streets with little more than stakes and survey flags. New construction permits soared as developers promised modern homes with hurricane glass and deep water docks. The city's population swelled, with new arrivals outpacing available inventory and driving bidding wars on canal homes that just months earlier sat unsold. By the summer of 2022, Cape Coral had become the poster child for Florida's real estate boom. The city's canals, once a selling point for retirees on a budget, now drew remote workers, investors, and speculators in equal measure. The promise of easy equity and endless demand pushed prices ever higher, while the share of investor-owned properties reached levels not seen in any other Florida city. The market's foundation, steady appreciation, affordable insurance, and quick sales, was replaced by a feverish chase for the next big return. The city's vulnerability grew with every new contract, every lot flipped, every out-of-state buyer betting on the water. On September 28, 2022, Hurricane Ian slammed into Cape Coral as a Category 4 storm. Winds topped 150 miles per hour. By the time the eye passed, the city's canals had become rivers of debris. The storm surge reached 12 to 18 feet, swallowing seawalls, docks, and entire ground floors. In a single day, 60% of Cape Coral's structures suffered damage. Roofs torn away, walls collapsed, pools filled with brackish water. Boats that once lined the canals ended up wedged between houses or stranded in the streets. The city's signature infrastructure, over 400 miles of seawalls and private docks, did not hold. Panels fractured under the pressure. Uplift and scour left sections dangling or dropped into the water. Docks splintered or vanished outright, torn loose by wind and surge. In some neighborhoods, every other house wore a blue tarp. Streets filled with ruined furniture and drywall. For weeks, the air carried the smell of soaked carpet and gasoline. Insurance claims in Cape Coral alone topped $10 billion. Adjusters struggled to keep up. Some homes sat half-gutted months later, waiting for repairs or a settlement. The city's population, already growing, now faced a new reality. The waterfront dream had become a liability overnight. The event didn't just scar the landscape, it rewrote the rules of risk. Before Ian, Cape Coral's canals were an asset. Now for thousands, they were a source of uncertainty and loss. The shock was immediate, and the aftershocks would only grow. Insurance, once a quiet line item in the Cape Coral budget, became the market's breaking point after Hurricane Ian. Premiums for a basic non-waterfront home now range from $5,500 to $8,500 a year, triple the cost of just a few years ago. On the canals, the bill stretches to $9,000 or $15,000. For Gulf access properties, annual premiums regularly exceed $25,000. Flood insurance, now mandatory on any waterfront, adds another $2,500 to $8,000. Even these numbers don't capture the full weight. Windstorm deductibles have ballooned to $10,000, sometimes $25,000, and must be paid before a single claim dollar is released. The private insurance market did not simply raise prices, it withdrew. More than a dozen carriers exited Cape Coral or imposed strict moratoriums on new policies. United Property and Casualty, one of the city's largest underwriters, entered receivership in early 2023, leaving over 140,000 Florida policies in limbo. Heritage and American Integrity followed with sweeping non-renewals. For canal and Gulf front homes, 35% of policies were dropped in the 2 years after Ian. Some owners received non-renewal letters with no explanation beyond risk concentration. Others were told their homes could not be insured at any price until repairs, often unaffordable, were completed. Into the void stepped Citizens Property Insurance, the state-backed insurer of last resort. By 2024, nearly half of Cape Coral's policies flowed through Citizens. But Citizens, by law, can raise rates by up to 12% per year and may leave homeowners exposed if claims spike again. Lenders, wary of uninsured properties, began forcing expensive policies onto borrowers who could not secure private coverage. Closings fell apart as buyers balked at the cost, or lenders refused to underwrite loans for uninsurable homes. The insurance exodus froze the market in place, turning what was once a paperwork formality into the single greatest barrier to buying, selling, or even keeping a home on the water. A waterfront address in Cape Coral once promised automatic equity. After Hurricane Ian, the numbers on every listing sheet tell a different story. Buyers now approach canal and Gulf access homes with calculators, engineers, and insurance agents in tow. The first question is not about the view, but about the seawall. Was it damaged? Has it been rebuilt to post-Ian code? The answer often ends the conversation. Seawall reconstruction runs from $50,000 to $150,000 per property, depending on length, access, and new engineering requirements. For many homes, the old concrete panels collapsed under the surge, leaving backyards open to the canal, their soil eroding with each tide. Permitting alone can take months, and the wait for licensed marine contractors stretches into years. Docks and boat lifts, once a selling point, now add to the burden. Replacement costs for a basic dock and lift package range from $30,000 to $80,000. In neighborhoods where every other property suffered damage, buyers face the prospect of waiting in line, sometimes behind dozens of other homeowners, just to secure a contractor. The city's permit office remains overwhelmed, and material prices have soared. Even owners who receive insurance payouts find the funds fall short of current bids. Homes with unrepaired seawalls or missing docks sit on the market for 150 days or more. Lenders often refuse to issue mortgages on properties with failed marine infrastructure, citing structural risk and insurability concerns. Buyers walk away at the inspection stage, unwilling to assume the cost or the uncertainty. Some sellers offer steep discounts, but even then, the math rarely works. Repair costs can erase years of appreciation. The very feature that once sold Cape Coral, water at your back door, now blocks the sale entirely. Cape Coral's housing market now reads like a cautionary tale in numbers. By spring 2025, the city's active inventory hovers between 6,500 and 7,500 homes, almost double what it was 2 years before. The median sale price sits between $350,000 and $370,000, down as much as $75,000 from the peak. Homes linger on the market for 95 to 130 days, more than triple the time it once took to find a buyer. Nearly 2 out of every 3 listings end up with a price cut before closing, and almost a third of contracts fail to reach the finish line at all. The absorption rate, how quickly the market can clear its backlog, has slowed to a crawl. For every buyer, there are now more than a dozen homes competing for attention. Even the most desirable addresses, once snapped up in days, now sit waiting for offers that never come. The numbers leave little room for doubt. What was once a seller's market has frozen into a standoff, with too many homes, too few buyers, and falling prices that show no sign of stabilizing. Investor-owned homes once filled Cape Coral's canal neighborhoods with the promise of easy rental income. By 2025, that promise has collapsed. Short-term rental occupancy, which hovered near 80% before Hurricane Ian, now struggles to reach 50%. Many properties sit empty, their owners unable to attract guests as tourism falters and insurance costs soar. Streets lined with for sale signs reveal the scale of the retreat. Some neighborhoods tally 40% of homes listed, a visible sign of investor flight. Institutional players who once snapped up entire blocks have exited, dumping properties at steep losses. Zillow and Opendoor, whose algorithms once drove bidding wars, have liquidated their holdings and left the market behind. Smaller investors, unable to cover mortgages and repairs, face mounting losses. One owner of 4 canal homes, purchased for $1.4 million at the peak, now sees a portfolio worth just $950,000. With rental income down and expenses up, the math no longer works. Reports of strategic defaults and distressed sales mount with each passing month. Vacant lots tell a parallel story of speculative excess gone wrong. At the height of the boom, buildable lots fetched up to $180,000. Now, many languish at $45,000 or less, with no buyers in sight. Owners pay annual taxes, often $1,500 to $2,500 per lot, on land they cannot sell or build on. The result is a city dotted with empty parcels, each one a silent drain on its owner's finances and a reminder of a market that ran too far too fast. A retiree couple sits in a Gulf access home they bought for $625,000 in 2021. The water that once promised freedom now threatens to swallow their future. Their insurance bill has climbed to $22,000 a year. The seawall behind the house collapsed in the storm, leaving an $85,000 repair they can't afford. The home's value has dropped to $450,000. Their savings drain away month after month as they wait for a buyer who never comes. Across town, an investor checks the numbers on 4 canal homes purchased for $1.4 million at the peak. They're now worth $950,000 combined. Short-term rental bookings have fallen to 35% occupancy. Each month, the losses mount. $8,000 gone, with no relief in sight. Strategic default becomes a real option as bookings dry up and insurance costs outpace rent. A young family, drawn to Cape Coral's promise of space and affordability, bought a non-waterfront home for $385,000 in 2022. Their company has recalled them to the office. The house is now worth $320,000. They are $65,000 underwater and negotiating with the lender for a short sale. Relocation means bringing cash to the closing table or walking away. On the city's edge, a lot speculator holds the deeds to 3 vacant parcels, bought for $450,000 during the frenzy. Today, they're worth $150,000 total. Taxes claim $4,500 a year. Construction is out of reach, and buyers have vanished. Each bill is a reminder. They are trapped by dirt they cannot sell. For every story, the refrain is the same. Claims delayed, contractors booked for years, hope fading as another hurricane season approaches. Each May, listings surge as owners try to escape before the next storm. Blue tarps and broken seawalls remain as evidence of a recovery that refuses to arrive. In 2025, Cape Coral lists over 7,500 homes, an inventory level nearly double the pre-Ian average. The documentary has shown how median prices fell by $55,000 to $75,000 since the peak, and how insurance costs for waterfront homes now reach as high as $25,000 per year. Hurricane Ian's $10 billion in local claims and the withdrawal of more than a dozen insurance carriers turned Cape Coral's greatest asset, its canals, into a financial burden for many residents. Although FEMA recovery and insurance disputes remain unresolved for thousands, and the question of when or if affordable coverage will return is unanswered, the evidence is clear. The city's market shifted from boom to crisis because of one catastrophic event and its cascading effects. Today, The canal-lined neighborhoods that once promised easy living are marked by lingering storm damage, unsellable properties, and ongoing uncertainty. The documents and data confirm the reality. The canals that once sold the dream now trap homeowners with no escape.